Welcome to Telltale Books and number 4 in my series about Jack Williamson. The fourth work in Jack Williamson's bibliography is titled The Second Shell. It was published in November of 1929. It's a novelette, and it was published in Air Wonder Stories, which was one of Hugo Gernsback's magazines that he started after he lost control of Amazing Stories. In The Second Shell, a scientist develops what he calls Vernon Ray after his name. Last name is Vernon, Dr. Vernon. And another scientist who knows him makes a discovery that there are creatures that live in the Earth's upper atmosphere on a second shell around the Earth. It's a very thin shell. Earthly matter like we live in can go right through this shell, and so everything there and the beings that live there are semi-transparent, which is why you don't really see it from the ground. Okay, so the second scientist, he wants to take over the world, and he has a plan to steal the blueprints for the Vernon Ray and build his own Vernon Ray devices to use to, they're like a disintegrator ray almost. And then he enlists the help. He actually does meet these creatures from the upper atmosphere and enlists their help because he wants to conquer both of these worlds and rule over them both. So he does steal the plans for the Vernon Ray, and he then he's collecting a radioactive element, thorium I think it was, and storing that because that element is used in the Vernon Ray, so he needs a large amount of it. So he early in the story he attacks a factory where there's a lot of this radioactive element stored. And he's taking it all to this mountain in Mexico where that kind of acts as his base. Okay. Rest of the story, of course, you have a young, handsome hero, and Dr. Vernon has a daughter. Dr. Vernon himself is your typical absent-minded professor. So, kind of disappointing considering that 2 out of the first 3 stories were so amazing that Williamson did something that was, well, maybe at the time it wasn't so stereotypical, but looking back on it today, the characters are all cardboard stereotype pulp characters. And the story of a mad scientist wanting to take over the world is, again, it's what has given pulp science fiction a bad rap over the years, that people expect all pulp science fiction to be like this. And I had never read this story before. It's kind of disappointing to see that Williamson was stooping down to something so bland and obvious. But Williamson does have his typical high imagination going on here with the whole second shell thing and the creatures and the type of airplanes they have and the Vernon Ray. And, there's a lot of super science being thrown around here, and it's all coming from Williamson's imagination. The science, of course, is complete nonsense. There is no such second shell. But it all makes the story kind of weird, wild, and fun, really. If you can overlook, if you can appreciate that this is a stereotype pulp science fiction space opera adventure story with all the stereotypical bad science fiction elements, you can actually enjoy the story, kind of like same way you would enjoy a really bad movie. It's so bad it's good. This is so bad it's kind of fun. But I would only recommend this story to those of you who either are really into Williamson or really into early science fiction or really into something that comes across rather campy, even though it was intended to be serious, then this story is for you. But for everyone else, I would say stay away from this one. it's not a top tale. It's not Williamson's best. It's not memorable. It's not a classic. And it's definitely not as good as the science fiction that even Jack Williamson was writing at the time. It's an inferior effort from him. So that's number 4 for Jack Williamson. Number 5 will be a novel, which for 1930, I'm sure it's pretty short, but it is still the longest Jack Williamson piece that I've encountered so far. And it's called The Green Girl and was published in March of 1930. Second shell was November of 1929. We've crossed into the 1930s, and I will report on that after I've read it. Might be a little while because I'm getting a lot of stuff piling up on me. But I will get to that, and I will do a video telling you what I think. And I'll see you in that video. I'll see you in all the other videos that I've got coming up. We've got a lot of great things coming, including some Clifford Simak kind of out of sequence, because Emily discovered Macedonia and wanted to read it right away. And that, I've just started my Clifford Simak, so that's way down the line for my project. But, well, she wants to read it, so we are reading it, and we'll do a video out of sequence on that and the short story that preceded it called Project Mastodon. I hope you will like us and subscribe to us and come on back for more, because we got a lot more coming at you. Bye.